I'm going to ask you a question. When you're having a stressful day, you're feeling overwhelmed, you're feeling overworked, you're feeling burned out, what is that thing that you reach for? What is that go-to that you have that you're like, oh, that's my thing? It takes the edge off. This is something that I go to at the end of my day to reward me for making it through the day. This is this thing that I turn to that just makes things a little bit better. Sometimes it may be a distraction from what's going on. Sometimes we tell ourselves it's a reward for all the hard work that we've done. But think about, what is that go-to that exists in your day? And what does that look like?
Welcome to the This Therapist Has Problems podcast show.
Welcome to the This Therapist Has Problems podcast, and welcome back into my office. I always start my episodes checking in with you, checking in and seeing how you're doing, how you're feeling, what is going on in your world. Let me know, how are you doing? How are you feeling? I know a lot of times we go throughout our day and no one really asks how we're feeling. So I'm asking you, how are you feeling? Drop that in the comments. Let me know what is going on in your world. Today, we're going to be talking about addiction. What is addiction? What does it look like? What does it mean? How does it start? And how do we recognize the difference between a habit or coping technique versus something that we often lose control of and don't even know it? I want to tell you guys a little bit about myself. I always start episodes off being very vulnerable and helping you guys understand what this has looked like for me. I've shared, if you watched any of my previous episodes, that I am divorced. I have 2 children, and I went through my separation and divorce 2019, 2020. You guys know what that time in our lives looked like, very isolated. So I was living on my own for the first time in a very long time. I was married at that point for 10, 11 years. So living on my own for the first time. I have split custody, so a week on, week off, and it was my first time not having my kids every day. And also, I got laid off during that time, so I did not have a job at the beginning of 2020. It was a lot of change, a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety, a lot of grief that I was experiencing at that time. And one thing I recognized is on the days that I would take my kids for switch day, I had this routine, like, I'm gonna do something for me, I'm gonna go to the store, I'm gonna pick up some snacks, and I often got a bottle or 2 of wine. And that was my routine. That was my habit of not really occupying my time, being a mom, I'm working all day. This is just my little reward. I get to relax, I get to decompress. One thing I recognize though is I had a jar, maybe this big, and I would just put the wine corks in there. I would finish a bottle of wine, put the wine cork in this jar. And then I recognized this jar is starting to overflow. Then I got another bowl and I'm like putting corks in there, putting corks in there. And then I had to pause and look at literally this image of, girl, this is not good. This is not a healthy coping technique for you. You're telling yourself that you're giving you a reward. You're celebrating the end of your day to say, I'm kid free. I'm going to relax. I'm going to treat myself. But what I didn't recognize in that process is that I was not dealing with my grief. I was not dealing with the things that I was going to. I was quite literally numbing myself out just to make it through those days. And then when I got my kids again, I was like, I'm good. I'm back on mommy mode. I can focus on my babies. And that was something that brought me joy. One thing that for me, in being transparent, is recognizing, had I not stopped to take stock of my behavior, it could have continued to progress. It could have been something to say, rather than just once a week drinking a couple of bottles of wine, maybe it would become every week, maybe every day, maybe throughout my day to escape. But I recognize that when you're dealing with something as a coping skill and you're telling yourself this is helping you, this is a treat, this is a reward, it can get ahead of you where you lose control. In my specific case, being very open and honest and transparent, right? Had I not taken that moment to truly assess my behavior, that could have led me down a really, really bad path. And it could have been something that moved away from I'm controlling this to this thing controlling me. Again, I've experienced it and I've been able to work through that and recognize that in saying, you know what, I can't drink anymore. And I drink occasionally, but even due to some recent health things that I've been dealing with, I decided that I really don't drink much at all. But it was something that once I recognized that, seeing that literal image of how much alcohol I was consuming, I was like, no, I'm not doing this anymore. And I was able to stop. No more wine. I'm not buying any more wine. I'm not treating myself in that way. But for some people, you have to assess when you think about your go-to, when you think about that thing that you turn to for an escape. If you have to think about not doing it for a couple days, not doing it for a week, what do you feel inside? How do you respond to thinking about not having that thing in your life as a consistent, constant outlet? As I'm going through the details of this podcast, really take some self-evaluation, take some reflection time to say, how does this apply to how I reach out and use things around me to cope? Let's dig in. What is addiction? What does it mean? What does it look like? Addiction is something that is often misunderstood, right? Like I said, when we think about addiction, we think about the worst of the worst. But the American Society of Addiction Medicine has defined addiction as a chronic, relapsing brain disease that affects the reward system, your motivation, and your memory systems. When you think about addiction, I want the main thing to stand out in that is it's a disease, right? There are chemicals affected in your brain when you lean on certain things and you tell yourself that it's a reward, right? When you think about people say, oh, if you're dealing with addiction, just quit, just stop. It's not that big of a deal. When you get to a point where you're truly addicted to something, it's beyond just making a choice. It's beyond just having willpower. Your body chemistry has started to change to lean towards this thing as an outlet, as a sense of relief. Addiction happens when your brain starts to depend on a substance or a behavior to feel. So to break that down even further, what's a habit? A habit is simply something that you do regularly and sometimes even without thinking, right? So habitually, if you have something that's just a habit to say, even like I said, with my own personal example, right? It was a habit. After I dropped my kids off, I would go to the store, I would buy ice cream and cookies and treats and all these random things and a bottle of wine. And it became a habit that really I didn't even recognize was becoming something bigger, but it was a habit. Okay, it's just something, treat, not that big deal. A habit is something that you get into the routine of doing, and it becomes such a routine that you really don't even think twice about it. The next level is a compulsion. What is a compulsion? A compulsion is something you feel anxious if you don't do. So in my specific example, I was at the habit stage. Had I continued on that path, then I likely would have gotten to the stage where it's like, no, I have to go and get alcohol. If I don't have this, I start to feel anxious because what outlet do I have if I don't have this thing to lean towards to make myself feel better? And then taking a step further, addiction. What is an addiction? It's something that you keep doing despite the consequences. Risk your health, risk your relationship, your family, your finances, your job. You feel powerless to stop. Even though you see this train coming at you, you can't get out the way. Even if there's risk of, I'm having some health issues, your doctor says you need to stop doing this thing. It's hurting you physically, but you can't stop. It's causing issues in your family. Your family's like, I can't deal with this. This is a boundary, and you can't stop. If you're finding that you're sacrificing taking care of your financial obligations in order to put your finances towards getting this thing, that's a sign that it's moved into the addiction phase. About 1 in 10 people live with substance use disorder. So that means 1 out of every 10 people that you're around may be dealing with substance use problems, knowingly or unknowingly. There's sometimes this gray zone, right, where you are dependent on something, but not fully, right? It's at this addiction phase where it's moved from habit to compulsion, and you're right on the edge of saying, I can't function without this thing. But if you get this feeling, I don't even want to think about not having it, it's a sign that you're not free from that thing. It's a sign that it may be bigger than you realize. Addiction is often a strategy, right? No one sets out like, I'm going to become an addict today. I'm going to be addicted to substances. No one sets out their day, their life to become addicted to a substance. A lot of times you start turning towards something as a relief. You turn to it as a coping tool. You turn to it as an outlet. When you think about alcohol, weed, food, shopping, even our cell phones, we often use those things as a way to cope, to escape, to feel something, or to feel nothing, to just numb out. And I don't want to deal with anything going on around me. I am going to scroll for hours on my phone. I don't want to be involved with life around me. I'm just going to get lost in the scroll. Oftentimes, like I said, it feels good. It feels like an escape when it first starts. So it feels good. It works. It's a coping strategy until it's no longer a coping strategy, because our brain is very sophisticated. Our brain can learn and adapt and adjust to the things and the circumstances that we put around it. Once that relief becomes a requirement to say, I don't feel relaxed unless I do this thing. I can't go to sleep unless I do this thing. I can't function without this thing in my life. It's telling you, because you've gotten caught up in this habit that became a compulsion, your brain has now rewired to be addicted to that thing for a sense of relief. Your brain learns, this is what helps me to feel okay. This is what helps me feel good. Over time, your brain stops producing the chemical dopamine. Dopamine is your reward neurotransmitter in your brain. So if your brain stops naturally producing dopamine and it attaches rewards to a specific thing, now you need that thing to function. Now you need that thing to feel happy, content. Understanding, again, it's not just a choice. It's not just willpower. It's not just a weakness. You have quite literally changed your neurochemistry, right? You've rewired and restructured your brain in a way that you've completely lost control. Again, take stock of what is that thing that you go to? What is that thing that you turn to? And if you feel like I can't function without it, let's think about what that truly means. If you ever wondered, why can't I just stop? I need you to know again, it's not about self-control. It is your brain doing its job to handle the stress that it's under. If you train your brain, this is what makes me feel good, then your brain is doing what you wired it to do, right? To say, hey, I'm going to this thing because this is what makes me happy. Let's talk about dopamine. Again, our brain is so sophisticated, right? Dopamine is a neurotransmitter that plays a key role in our brain's reward system. So it influences pleasure, motivation, movement, and it contributes overall to our feelings of happiness and satisfaction. Your brain has this chemical that says, this is something that makes me feel good. It seeks whatever that thing is, and it encourages repetition, because who doesn't want to feel good, right? This reward center is wired, and the dopamine provides us this sense of pleasure. High functioning addiction. Now let's talk about this. I have done an episode on depression. I've done an episode on anxiety. In each of those episodes, I have discussed high functioning. And when we think about addiction, we think about the worst of the worst. But what happens when you are leaning on this thing and you are a high achiever? You're checking all the boxes, you're doing all the things. Nobody knows what's going on except for you. Does that mean it's not a problem? No, you're just high functioning with that addiction. Addiction doesn't always show up as chaos. It doesn't always show up as rock bottom or your life falling apart. Sometimes it shows up as, I can get things done. Your house is clean, you look amazing, you're excelling in your career, and you are presenting the perfect picture for your friends, your family, and on your news feed. But high functioning addiction is extremely tricky because the world celebrates our ability to keep going, right? Behind the scenes, you're using a substance to sleep, to cope, to feel normal. Other people see, oh, she's doing great. She's excelling. She's getting the job done. I can depend on her. Internally, you're hiding the extent of the things that you're doing. You're hiding it from others. You're feeling ashamed, but you're also scared to stop going to that thing. And I keep saying that thing because I want to emphasize this when it comes to addiction. It's not always a substance. Like I said, you can be addicted to using your cell phone. You can be addicted to shopping. You can be addicted to eating. Whatever that thing is that we've trained our brains that this is where my happiness is, this is where my relief is, you can become addicted to it. As a Black woman, again, I've talked about this plenty of times, we have been taught that rest is weakness, and to struggle and just power through and get the job done is something to be celebrated. When we have these things that we turn to, we just say, oh, I'm just decompressing, I'm just treating myself, I'm just celebrating. But we don't really take stock of, why do I need this specific thing so badly? Why is this the only thing that I feel like I can turn to make myself feel better? I'll go back to the question that I asked you in the very beginning. What is that thing that you turn to at the end of your day that says, I'm overwhelmed, I'm stressed, I'm tired, I'm frustrated. If I can just do this one thing, then I'll feel better. If I can just have this one thing, it'll take the weight off. I want you to question, why do I need this specific thing so badly? One thing I did not mention, but has become a serious issue, but it's also seriously normalized, is vaping. I just watched a documentary on Netflix about vaping and truly trying to understand how this product came to be, why was it marketed this way, why does it specifically touch especially children, young adults, teenagers, and why is this something that is so habit forming, right? So you think about vaping, it has been something that's been very popularized throughout the years, and when I talk to people specifically about vaping, we recognize it's extremely difficult for them to stop. Why is that? Because in watching this documentary, they specifically marketed this without making it fully known there's nicotine in vapes, right? So we thought, oh, this is an alternative. This is a healthy version of smoking cigarettes. But it's something that has truly changed people's chemistry where they cannot function without vaping. And it's something they have in their hand all day as a habit. Now we have THC vapes where you can use these vapes, but it's THC in it. So again, it's easy access. So you don't think it's a big deal, but it's extremely habit forming and addictive. So if you're dealing with that, then take stock of why. Why is this something that you feel like you need to lean towards? Another substance I talk to my clients about is marijuana. This is something that comes up in discussion a lot because I know that there is a lot conversation about, can you become addicted to marijuana? And they're like, oh, it's natural, it comes from the earth. No, you can't be addicted to it. No, it's not this big deal. What I always ask is, can you go a week without smoking? Can you go a week without using it every time when you wake up, when you go to lunch, before you go to bed? What do you feel inside when you think about not smoking? What things have you had to compromise on because you smoke? Is it, oh, I can't really apply for a job right now, they may drug test me? What are some things that you feel when you're like, but I still have some weed left, I don't want to stop right now, right? We have all of these things that we use to justify our behaviors, but if you feel this sense of dread when you think about not smoking, then I would say yes, you can become addicted to marijuana, right? I think we have to take a realistic stock of our behaviors and the things that we're doing and saying anything, again, going back to the science, right? Anything that you tell and train your brain is a reward, right? That becomes your brain's dopamine. Yes, you can become addicted to marijuana. If you are like, at the end of the day, I want to eat all the things. I want ice cream, cookies, cakes. I want chicken. I want fries, and I want a burger. And you're eating to the point where you're making yourself sick, but you're like, I feel good. This is my way to escape. I'm loving on myself. I'm coping. I'm dealing with everything. You can become addicted to food. If you are swipe happy and Klarna happy and Afterpay happy, knowing that you have bills that you haven't paid, you can become addicted to shopping, right? We have to truly take stock of our behaviors and telling ourselves those little things that we're telling ourselves are our gold star. Well, this is my reward. I'm celebrating me. I'm loving on me. But if you've lost control of that thing, take stock. It can potentially be an addiction. If any of this feels close to home, I want you to reflect on a couple of things, not with judgment, but with honesty. I want you to ask yourself, can I stop if I really wanted to? Am I using this thing to avoid a deeper pain in my life? Have I lied about using it even just once? Have I hidden it from people around me? What would I feel like if I had to go a week without using that thing? Take stock of that. Again, can I stop using it if I wanted to? Am I using this to cope or avoid pain in my life? Have I lied about using it? Have I hidden the fact that I'm using it? And what would I feel if I had to go a week without it? It's important to understand addiction thrives in silence. Heard, and there's a great TED Talk out there that talks about addiction, and he says the opposite of addiction is connection, right? Addiction thrives in you hiding it and keeping it secret. In order to heal, first you have to acknowledge it. You have to address it. You have to be honest about it. You don't have to call it an addiction today. That isn't my goal for you to listen to this video and walk away thinking, oh my God, I'm an addict. The goal of this is to cause some self-reflection and for you to look at your behaviors. Another thing is, the goal of this video is I am not attempting to push you to quit today. Again, addiction is a change in your brain chemistry, and it didn't get that way overnight. It's not going to change back overnight. You just have to be curious about, what is this behavior? What is this thing that I'm leaning on? And what is going on underneath that? What am I truly running from? I want to remind you, when it comes to addiction, again, we start these behaviors off with the best of intentions, right? Life is stressful. Life is hard. Life is real, and adulting is ghetto. We start these things thinking, I just want to feel good. I just want to cope. I just want something that I can do for myself that makes me feel at least a little bit better. But over time, it can get out of hand and become something that you're no longer in control of. Say that to say, if you're identifying with any of these things, you're not weak. You're not broken. You just need to be able to self-reflect and say, I've used this as something to help me navigate through life. I've used this as something to help me survive the circumstances of life. But understand, over time, this is something that can steal your joy away. It can take away relationships. It can take away your ability to connect, and we all need connection. It can also cause you to lose your sense of self. Take stock, reflect, understand. Again, healing is possible, and healing is something that you can obtain, right? And you deserve to live a life where you're not depending on something else outside of you to make you happy. Again, if this has resonated with you in any way, know that it's okay to reach out to get some help. I am located in the state of Texas. I am a licensed therapist, so if you're looking for some support, I am here to support you if you're looking to just reach out and get some additional information and understand more about what this looks like specifically for you. I will also drop more resources down in the description box if you are looking for a therapist in your area. But no, the most important thing that I want to leave with you today is that we all go through this. I explained how, hey, it caught up with me unknowingly, and I really had to look at myself and check my behavior and choose to do something different. So me sitting in front of you as a licensed therapist fell into this trap of leaning on things to cope and deal with life. No, we all go through it. It's just a matter of you recognizing that this is something that you're dealing with. You have the ability to change that. I always provide resources to say, hey, if you are feeling like this is resonating with you, no, you don't have to figure this out alone. Again, my goal is not to call you an addict and have you walk away with that. My goal is not to say you need to quit using that thing today. No, my goal is to highlight these are some areas where you may need some support. I hope that you gained something from this episode. Thank you again for watching this podcast. If you're not subscribed, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, hit the like button so that we can stay in contact. You can be updated, notified when I post more videos like this. I think that's it. Thank you so much for stepping into my office again. This is the This Therapist Has Problems podcast, and I will see you next time. Bye.
Problems may have us, but they sure can't stop us. We're doing the work, put in the time, changing one life at a time. Welcome to the This Therapist Has Problems podcast show.